Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started, and thank you so much for the intro. We appreciate it. How many of you are, with raising hands, are familiar with ICML, International Council for Machinery Lubrication? Okay, so biggest majority of you. If you haven't come by to get your yellow ICML certified sticker, please come see us, because like I said, they're the AKA MVP stickers that we're going to give out to our folks. So, also got to see a lot of familiar faces, faces we hadn't seen in quite some years, and some new faces. The gentleman that just arrived back from Saudi Aramco, we've got some good things going for them, and proud to have that partnership with them as well. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Your first time. Or as Bennett would say as of last Tuesday, the rookies. First time here. So are we there yet? How to follow the complete ICML 55 standard on the journey to the corporate program certification. How many of you are familiar with the ISO 55000, the big standard of all the asset management? Okay, so a few of you. I wanted to go ahead and start out with our intro, as we always do with our presentations, because not too many folks are familiar with ICML, especially when we go international. So, because we are a global international organization and certifying body, we are a nonprofit organization. So, we serve the lubrication and fuel analysis industries. And so, that community is who we serve as a nonprofit. And we've been doing this since 2001. And we are vendor neutral, so we work with different companies all over the world and have 70 plus training partners globally. And those of you who have been certified with ICML and have those MVP stickers, I am proud to announce that we have 34 plus thousand certified professionals with ICML. So we've definitely been around for a long time. And some of you all saw, and also maybe on our website, in the last 3 years, we celebrated 20 years with ICML. And so one of the things, we're known for certification development. So who is ICML? That's how we start most of our presentations. And we're mainly known for certifications. We are a certifying body. We're also the authority, or the world-class authority, when it comes to certifications in machinery lubrication and oil analysis. That has been our main focus over the last 20 years. But after we had our anniversary, we've certainly moved on to other things as well. Certifications being the standard for ICML. And so I wanted to go over just some figures with you all, because it would be all in good for me to say, yes, we have a lot of certified professionals at ICML. But to hear over 34,000 around the world, that means it says a lot to us. And we also have training partners that also have been wearing their MVP stickers, which has been nice. But we could not have done this over the last 23 years without our training partners, our volunteers that have helped us with the exam questions for each of the 8 certifications that we have with ICML, along with 3 new badges within the last several years. The latest one, the food grade badge. We've had a lot of ingredients, Simmons folks who've come by and looked at that and looking into that particular badge. So, and also the implementation and the rollout of the ICML 55 standard. So we were the ones that developed that. And those of you, as far as the ICML 55,000 in asset management, it covers tons of silos. However, because we are a nonprofit and serve the machinery lubrication and oil analysis industry or community, it was important for us to focus on that piece, which was lubrication and oil analysis. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. So that's kind of where we're at. We've always done certifications, but we've moved forward. We also, how many of you have heard of our Battle and Yield awards that we offer to companies who excel in regards to having an excellent lubrication program and an excellent oil analysis program? We have applications that companies will fill out. They'll send pictures of the before and the afters. And then Paul assists with the judges for that. And then each year we give out a battle award, which is in regards to lubrication, and the Augustus H. Gill Award for oil analysis. Hard to say. That's just a repeat. But when I was talking about our 20th anniversary, Paul came up with this really neat idea to give everyone dates on how far we've come in the last 20 years. So it was a great celebration that we had. So just another quick example. What are we doing? Well, that's why I wanted to give you all the figures. The 110 countries I did not mention on top of the 70 plus training partnerships we have. And also, we're currently working with an e-library, we're a publishing company, to grow the e-library. And I'm telling you all this because what we've done then, what we're doing now, and where we're going, leads up to the ICML 55 standard that we have developed. And we're very close to being finished with that. I'm very excited. And we talked about the specialty badge programs that we've added as well. So what's coming up? So we're also, if any of you, if you've gone to our website, we're actually changing the whole of the ICML website because the database for our certified professionals and the exams is tied into our actual website. So, for example, if those of you who are certified, if you were to see it, listed on ICML's website, we have a list of certified professionals that we update each time someone gets certified with ICML. And there's a lot of our training partners that have shown up here at the Reliable Plant Conference, and so we were certainly excited to see them as well. And then also, Paul assists us with another team member with, we have membership packages, whether it be individual or corporate. And so they both work on that, and then we've also enhanced the membership. And because we now have the ICML 55, it's still in progress, but we've got the majority of it finished. That's going to be a part of the e-library and the membership piece. So all of that will tie in as well. So we will continue to upgrade the memberships as we go along. Definition of a standard. ISO states, can anyone tell me about it? Is a formula that's described the best way of doing something. And I was given the opportunity to go with Mr. Jim Fitch to Paris to join one of the committees that they had in regards to the 55,000. And I tell you, with all of those different silos with asset management, I was so pleased that our board of directors said, you know what, Leslie, maybe ICML needs to focus on their community of which they serve, which is machinery, lubrication, and oil analysis. So we said we are A-okay with doing that because there's too much going on. So we focused on that because that's what we've done the last 23 years. Okay, so why was it developed? I'm so sorry, Paul. I'm going to turn this over to Paul. My apologies. See? Thank you for doing this.
No, I should have known. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, our membership packages, the certifications, those things all feed up to the ISO, the ICML 55. So my apologies.
Oh,
I was going to steal your thunder and keep on going.
that's quite all right. I was telling some of the folks earlier I was going to develop a cough and leave anyway, so I think it's coming on now. I might have to finish this up for me. But yeah, so what I want to do is cover some of the context of the ICML 55 standard and how to use it. Because if you all haven't heard about it, and you might be overwhelmed by looking at it and saying, this is a lot of information, I'll read it tomorrow. You know, I need to keep putting it off. Because they can't, I didn't bring the samples in here. Yeah.
We'll have them though at our booth.
Yeah, come to our booth. We've got a sample set there you can actually hold and look at, drool over. But the definition of the standard that was up there a second ago, standard is, according to ISO, a formula for that describes the best way of doing something. And so something that we're trying to do, of course, is help organizations to establish, implement, maintain, and improve consistent lubrication management systems. Not just haphazard, everybody on their own doing an LMS, but consistency. That's what a standard is all about. So, how did this come about? 10 years ago, in 2014, the International Standard Organization, ISO, issued their asset management standard, ISO 55000, and it was containing 3 documents. I mean, it was very well structured, very comprehensive. It covered all kinds of intangible, physical, financial assets. The ICML leaders at the time took a look at it and said, this is all well and good, but it's way too broad to address specifically be readily applicable to people responsible for lubricated mechanical assets. Right? So they studied it and put together imagine if the ISO 55000 had been written specifically for you guys. All the lubrication terminology and all the specific lubricated asset scenarios addressed in it. That's what the ICML 55 is. A very practical, targeted application of the ISO principles and concepts, because ICML recognized all that was good, just needs to be more specific to our audience. And so that's what we did. We rolled out the requirements document in 2019, and that's this one here, the requirements document. So there's really ICML 55 is 3 documents in one, or 3 standards in one, really. They spell out the technical requirements and guidelines that's going to help make ISO 55000 concepts and principles, like I said, readily applicable in the lubricated asset world. So it's going to help an organization prepare its LMS to be ready for a corporate compliance audit. That's the goal. So, by the way, it's intentionally developed. The ICML 55 was intentionally developed with the machinery lubrication engineer certification. So those of you that were raising your hands with the, I don't have one, sorry, the yellow stickers said you're certified. Are there any MLE certified in here right now? One, give that man a hand. That's quite an achievement. There's not a lot of MLEs, because it's not an easy credential to earn. So congratulations to you, sir. Now, paying attention to this, as we talk a little bit more about the corporate compliance program where ICML 55 is leading, there's a role in there that is probably going to be well served by an MLE, uniquely qualified really to serve in an assessor role to assess programs and stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Good opportunities there. So back to the ICML 55 in general, if you think of it, ICML 55 is pretty much the missing link between the ISO 55000 broad standard and your plant, where all your machinery lives. Now we spared no expense for the audio-visual excitement that you're getting ready to witness, okay? So when you close your eyes later at night, you're going to remember this. Ta-da! Thank you. Now hold your applause, please. The ICML 55 is what bridges the gap between all that generality stuff, and you specifically build your bespoke bridge with ICML 55 requirements and guidelines to what you need at your plant. And when it's all said and done, you've got this whiz-bang, world-class lubrication program in place, then that's where, and Leslie will get back to this, that's where the corporate compliance certification comes in, which is the newest, latest part of the ICML 55.3. So, when you close your eyes tonight, you'll be thinking, you'll be calling your friends at home and saying, you won't believe what we just saw. So here's the standards. Recall our mission. We serve global industry, and we're dedicated to helping lubrication practitioners succeed in their careers. So the ICML 55, one reason we go into all the background about what ICML is doing is how does the ICML 55 fit our mission to help practitioners and their employers all around the world? This supports our mission because any company with a large base of lubricated assets, whether they're mobile or fixed, the ICML 55 standard helps them, ensures really that they know that they're doing all they can possibly be doing to develop and to improve their their LMS. If they're not pursuing this, it's going to be one of those things where, like, I wonder if this would have worked. You'll always wonder unless you do it. Had our mission, on the other hand, been limited only to certifications and not toward the broader benefits to the industry as a vendor-neutral nonprofit organization, had we been limited in scope, and 10 years ago when this opportunity presented itself to lay this groundwork for everybody, it just would not have crossed the minds of the ICML leaders at all that it was something that we should be doing. In fact, because it does support our mission so well, it would have been criminal for us not to put something like this together. And there's really no other group that could have pulled this off. You eagle-eyed people in the audience see there's 3 book covers here, but how many are here? Thank you. 4. Free coffee for everyone later. So the 4th part of the standard, of course, is 55.3. So what I want to do is describe what these books are, describe a little bit about how fit the requirements here and the guidelines here work together to get somebody, to get a company ready for here. And they are available for purchase. I think this slide will be made available later. Riverpublishers.com is the company that's actually producing the books on our behalf, and they handle all the ordering and such. I know, I wish I could have come up with a longer URL for you to look at, but that's as long as it's going to do. But if you go out to riverpublishers.com and put in 55 or something, you get information about all that.
So those are the samples also that we'll have.
Yeah. We have the samples, well, yeah, not this one, but we have the other 3 now that they're all out on the market. So the first one here, 55.0, is the overview. It makes an excellent executive summary so that if your plant is going to go on the journey toward developing the lubrication management system and bringing it up to standard, then obviously you want your bosses to know what's going on and why you're asking for so much money, right? And resources. And that executive overview is an excellent primer on the subject to get them on board. Then the 55.1 is the requirements for the optimized lubrication of mechanical physical assets. That's the first document that we published 5 years ago now. That's the first one we put out because we figured every company who's going to be interested in this can at least get started on identifying the requirements and moving forward with some development, with or without a guideline document, which the guideline document is the one that explains how to implement. And then as we move forward toward corporate compliance to audit and recognize the programs that have been brought through this, and this is the last document that will be out hopefully before the end of the year, and it's the Assessors Conformance Guideline. And that's what I was mentioning. The MLEs would be well suited for the role as an assessor, which is an in-house position, not an outside position. So, real quick, the overview is kind of what it says. It defines the terms and definitions, explains how the standards work together. It describes the principles, asset management principles in terms of physical assets related to lubrication. It also goes into some of the relationships to other management systems, corporate asset and work management systems, such as, I thought I changed my screen. Oh, no, there it is. Such as CAS 55. That makes me think I pulled up the wrong slideshow. I hope not. We'll see. Anyway, no, this is true. ICML 55 the overview explains this pretty well. It explains how the ICML 55 dovetails into these other asset management type and ISO standards and other workplace standards. So you might, I don't think PAS 55 is specifically mentioned up there, but PAS 55 stuff is incorporated into the ICML 55. And then, things here that you might recognize, ISO 9000, quality management, or 14,000, the environmental issues and such. And this is because lubrication analysis is kind of a predictive technology, predictive maintenance technology, because lubricant itself is considered to be an asset. And so ICML 55 crosses paths with these everywhere. And going back here, I'll go backwards. The overview is essentially the why, explaining why are we going to do this, so that your bosses understand and your teammates understand. And then the requirements document is essentially telling you what to do. And this was the one published in 2019. It was compiled by an international committee of 45 industry experts who somehow all came to an agreement on what 12 specific control areas should be. So the book is laid out in 12 different areas that each of which lays out a lot of issues and requirements, things you might not think of on your own. And that's one of the pluses of a standard, is that as you're going through it, I don't think anybody's ever going to look at any standard and say, oh, I knew that. I knew 100% of this thing. I could have written the book myself, right? If that's, that's great. But most likely you're going to be reading through it and finding stuff that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise, stuff that's going to be important for your facility or your people. So that's what this book does, is it lays out the 12 interrelated control areas and all the requirements therein. And just to be assured here, this is not intended to replace the ISO 55,000 document. Remember that ISO 55,000 document is huge, broad, covers all kinds of assets. This one is just written specifically to help you, for your maintenance department, your lubricated asset management team, to develop, almost like getting ready for the ISO 55,000. If your company is pursuing that, this is the book that you need to save you a lot of time and headache and frustration. So it doesn't compete with the ISO document, it doesn't replace it, and it's more of an enabling standard. I thought we locked the door. All right, so now we go back to...
Yeah, and just to add one more thing.
Yeah.
We rhyme, if you guys noticed in the last one, standalone or stepping stone. That's what Paul was talking about, because once a company or organization, facility, once that corporation gets this out of the way, the lubrication, oil analysis goes through all of this, they will have one piece of the asset management already completed. So it's a standalone if you want that to be for your company and that alone. But it's also a stepping stone if the upper management or folks at the corporation say, you know what, we did so good on this, we're going to move on to the next piece of the asset management program. Mm-hmm. Or the ISO 55,000.
Yes, sir.
In that, because I've been doing corporate reliability for 15, 20 years. And now, the question that I had in my head, why I wanted to get certified, I think you partially responded. But at the end of the day, unless the company is really pursuing it, the 55,000, for whatever reason, right?
Right.
How that's going to benefit the asset?
Very good question. You're probably the sixth person in this group that has asked us that, so I appreciate you asking that question. Because, that's why it was important to talk about a standalone or a stepping stone. That's one of the pieces as far as the value of it for a corporation. And I'll speak to that a little bit more when I do my portion, because, it's the WIFO method. Everybody wants to know what's in it for me or what's in it for my company. So, Paul will speak to that a little, and then I will do it on the last portion and answer your question. I'll keep it up here.
So the 55.2 guideline is the document that explains how to do the LMS how to implement the requirements laid out in 55.1. So it looks at each area's requirements from a practical perspective, and it does so in such a way that an auditor will be able to come in and see that your company actually knows what it's doing. So that's the role of the 55.2 is to really help you get on that way to being audit ready. So it is the blueprint, and it actually does, thankfully, include clear examples in each chapter, clear examples of things to do to get you toward compliance. So what are these 12 areas we keep talking about? They're very straightforward. Area 1, and these are the requirements laid out in 55.1. Area 1 spells out requirements. This is on our website too, so if that picture is blurry. This is actually on our website, but feel free to take whatever pictures you want. Area 1 is dealing with requirements related to training and competency for personnel. That's where your training and the certification specifications are laid in there. Area 2 is requirements for machine lube and condition monitoring readiness. One labeled machine here. So that deals with design and accessibility and use of monitoring technology. Area 3 is the requirements for lubricant design and selection. Area 4 is the requirements for lubrication schedules and maintenance, the periodic lubrication tasks that really should be in place or must be in place. Area 5 is requirements for tools, and that's going to include support facilities like storage and your lube rooms, stuff like that, and various other peripheral materials, not necessarily specific lubricant. Area 6 is the requirements for inspection, which deals with monitoring, of course, and also access, for safe access around your machinery. There's specifications for that, if you haven't really thought about that before. Lubricant, did I change? Here we go. Lubricant analysis is area 7, so requirements for condition monitoring there as well. It's kind of self-explanatory. Troubleshooting in area 8, so your root cause analysis procedures, getting those laid out. Requirements in area 9 for waste management and waste handling, and in area 10. Oil reclamation in area 11 and system decontamination. There's going to be end of life cycle stuff in there. And area 12 is the last one here. Blocking your view, sir. Sorry about that. Area 12 is the management of the LMS itself. So this is where continuous improvement instructions come into play. So there is a lot of information in detail throughout this standard. And you would think, oh, you can get that and it's all 100% specific. Well, it really can't be because, if your plant is different than your plant is different from yours. So everybody still needs a little bit of, I wouldn't say wiggle room, but room to customize and make bespoke plans. But using the ICML 55 as a framework. But the whole point of it is that it pushes specificity. Remember that awesome graphic that you're going to remember later on when you're going to bed? It had the cliff over here, and it had a cliff over here, the big gap in the middle, the big chasm right there. It pushes the specificity across that bridge to where your machinery is. So you're no longer having to work with the broad generalities of an asset management standard and say, how are we going to get across my machines and my situation is like this? Instead, this standard identifies so much and provides such a blueprint moving forward, it makes your decision making so close to the machines. Now it's more like, hey, so what do we need? What kind of training do we need on these? What is this circumstance going to do for us and our budget concerns and all that? And that's really how it's all going to work. But just keep in mind, you really can't just go to Google and start Googling stuff because your Google searches are always going to be limited by what you think you're supposed to be asking. All right, the whole idea of a standard is that you're going to learn something new. There's a standard out there, and some of it you may be familiar with, some of it not. This isn't just a list of tasks and things to do. So you can't Google for it. The team of 45 experts that put this all together, they didn't Google for it. So you shouldn't have to either. All right, they put all this work and effort into this. You get to stand on the shoulders of giants and make it work for you.
Or the value.
Oh yeah, for sure. So how you actually use 55, I tried to visualize how users of 55.1 and 55.2 would actually pull this off in real life, getting ready for a corporate compliance position. And so the process is fairly simple. You're going to do a self-assessment on what your plant is doing right now, the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's you're going to do it for each of the 12 control areas. And it may just be a little more than documenting what's going on right now. And then picture this: imagine if money was no object. And you could have anything you wanted in your program. What's your ideal dream program? You know, shoot for the moon, or what's that phrase? Shoot for the stars. Yeah. And then after you've done that, you say, this would be ideal. And then you start considering other factors in there that's going to temper it down a little bit. You know, the reality of your situation, or different priorities, resource restrictions, what personnel skill sets you actually have available, and the fact that money is always an object. So you're going to scale it back, and that's going to establish your best possible, and that's where success is going to be at your plant. It's going to be different for any plant out there. Your scenario of what's best possible is going to be different from somebody else. So the problem here is that good and best possible are subjective terms. You and your boss's boss might all have different ideas of what's good, what's best, what's possible. And so the standard here is the tool that you all can use to make those decisions. Use ICML 55.1. It reduces the guesswork, but it gets you all on the same page before you start putting your time and money into making the LMS, you know, where you want it to be. So in the end, you might have noticed every area is going to wind up kind of getting its own plan. It's like having 12 micro plans all grouped together into one big plan. And the decision making, like I said, helps you decide what good is, what's possible, and so you're going to be pointing out specifics in your plan, like specific tasks and actions for optimization, designation of responsibilities and authorities necessary to make it happen, all the required skill levels of personnel. That's all called for as you make these plans. And of course, every plan is going to have to do that fine balancing act of cost and risk and performance. Okay, it's going to be very custom specific to your facility. So everything is controlled across all phases of the lubrication life cycle. And keep in mind then, after all this work, if your company, doing 55.1 and 55.2, if your company is going to move forward with the corporate compliance program, which involves an official audit and eventually fly the ICML 55 flag, it's like flying the ISO flag. If you get audited and pass compliance there, it's a big deal. But if you're going to do that, then what I was just describing in those previous slides as best possible for your plant is going to have to match up with the 55.1 requirement standard, because that's what the auditor is going to be looking for. So that standard actually helps you with your analysis of where you need to be to move forward. And that's how ICML 55 gives your company's work purpose and meaning with a whole new goal. Right, Leslie?
Another value.
Right, back to you.
So as you guys see, there's a lot of stuff that's involved with this. And this is something that's been new for ICML. We've learned a lot. We have a project manager who's working with us on each of the steps in regards also to those standards. So we've done our homework over the last 5 years to be able to present the books that are standards that Paul had shown. The 55.3, our goal is to get that out by the end of this year or beginning of next year, beginning of next year. Because that's the meat and potatoes of it all, because that's the assessor's guide. So the assessor is someone that the corporation brings on within their corporation to be an assessor. That's an internal thing with your company. And next year I will be doing a lot of travel in regards to business development for this, along with our project manager. And then we have Mr. Ken Bannister, who's one of our board members, that also will be assisting myself and our project manager going to different corporations. We work with tons of corporations, facilities, plants. So we will be the development managers business development managers that will be going to different corporations. And some have called in to say, you know what, when you guys are ready, let us be on the list. Just like when we came out with the MLE, we had a waiting list for that, put me on the list. So, yeah, to your point, as far as the value, the reason we decided to do this is we've had some companies come in and say, we'd like to start doing stuff in-house as well. And so that's where this comes in, and all of the certifications that ICML offers will certainly benefit, because a lot of the companies that have called, they've got certified professionals from ICML. And so they've called upon us to get this done, get this completed, but do it the right way. And so the 55.3, it's taken us a little bit longer because we want to make sure we get it right. And so the assessor portion, like I said, it's internal. So a corporation could pick someone, certified professional, those of you with MVP stickers, or a company can have an auditor come in, or choose an auditor to go to different facilities for. Okay. And there's just a quick example of an assessor and an auditor, because for me, I've learned a lot myself, because in the beginning I thought, assessors, it was only Canada and SMRP that had the CAMA. They called them all assessors. They had very few auditors, and we are currently in a partnership with, did you all, when you were walking around, did you see a booth that said ABS Group?
Yes.
Okay. They're out of the States, but the ABS Group that we've partnered with for the lubrication management system that we're doing, they are one of the main global auditors around the world. And we were lucky enough to speak with a lady that's over that particular program out of Petro Canada. And so we're working with them, and very excited about it, because they're all in cahoots with all the other four, major global auditing companies. And so we are very excited about it. Also to be able to offer the assessor portion. They will be conducting the training for this individual, and we're not there yet. And so the next will be coming later this year, 55.3. That will give more of an insight of if someone wanted, if a corporation wanted someone to become an assessor, or a corporation wanted to be an auditor. That's all part of the membership piece too, because that'll tie into the enhancements and how it would benefit a company if they did this.
Well, believe it or not, technical difficulties interrupted the last few minutes of this session while we were recording it. However, I have retained a still shot of our screen, and I'm going to recap what Leslie was talking about during the last few minutes of the presentation, and I'm going to show you the appropriate slides so you won't go home feeling like you missed out. As she mentioned earlier, ICML 55.3 will be the standard. It's coming later this year, and when it comes out, it is going to be the standard that maps out the training requirements and the audit process for the ICML 55.1 program assessors. Now, as we described, those are going to be the in-house experts, and we mentioned as well that among other qualifications, we think that an MLE would be a good candidate to be an assessor for companies that are pursuing this. Now, ICML 55.3 is going to be a controlled document meant only for internal assessment personnel, the assessors. So it's not necessarily going to be targeted to the general public, because it won't make any sense or be practical for the general public as the 55.1 and 55.2 have been. But it will be practical for the internal assessors who are going to be the ones charged with preparing the LMS for the external audits that will be conducted by ABS. Speaking of ABS, are you ready to elevate your lubrication management to unprecedented levels of excellence? We are, of course, delighted to announce that ICML is partnering with ABS Quality Evaluations, Inc. to introduce our innovative ICML 55 corporate Lubrication Certification Program, which is meticulously crafted to empower your team and suppliers and industry professionals with the skills and knowledge needed to achieve unparalleled reliability and efficiency in machinery lubrication. This kind of a certification program has not been done before. It is specific to lubricated assets. So as we get closer to the release of ICML 55.3 Assessors Conformance Guideline, we will be able to describe more of what this corporate lubrication certification program is going to look like and how it's going to operate. As of now, we can only describe it as being similar to the broader usage of ICML 55.1 and 55.2 that I described earlier in the presentation. And the ICML 55.3 will give us a more specific model to pursue with the goal of plant level compliance. So to recap again, with the audit component in place, the complete ICML 55 standard will serve as a stepping stone toward all-encompassing ISO 55000 certification if that's where your company is headed. But remembering the rhyme that Leslie mentioned earlier, standalone or stepping stone, the ICML 55 is valuable as a standalone blueprint without the ISO price tag. And that could be very important for some companies out there. So ISO 55000 pursuit is not required because ICML 55 standard is only about the LMS. But it can, of course, be adapted as a precursor to that ISO 55000. Keep in mind that working toward a compliance audit can serve as a driver for the cultural paradigm shift that is often necessary to achieve lubrication excellence. So here's a few takeaways. Remember that ICML 55 is not a dictatorial instruction manual. It is, however, purposefully structured for you to apply a process to develop a bespoke plan for your facility. As an enabling standard, ICML 55 bridges the gap between broad asset management plans and your specific management plans for lubricated assets. Keep in mind that cliff image that was earlier in the presentation. You're going to go to sleep tonight, close your eyelids, and you're going to remember that. ICML 55 also eliminates guesswork because it standardizes the process of decision making, pushing all that decision making much closer to where your lubricated assets actually live. So you can be confident that you have covered all your bases. And the overview 55.0 tells you why to pursue the asset management excellence. And the ICML 55.1 tells you what to do, while 55.2 tells you how to do it. So finally, on our last slide here, thank you again. We hope this presentation has helped you to see and make sense of the valuable practical structure of ICML 55 Lubricated Asset Management Standard, and to get you started thinking about how full ICML 55 corporate compliance will help your plant reach new heights of reliability and performance. If you want to stay in touch with us regarding the schedule of the ICML 55.3 development during the second half of 2024, then add your name to our email notification list. The URL is on this slide. ICML 55 series is available for purchase at River Publishers. You can see the URL there. It's also available digitally. You can digitally access it if you are a subscriber to our e-library. The original slide did not have a URL for the e-library, but I added it on here now. So check that out as well. You can actually become a subscriber for a year to the e-library for less than purchasing the ICML 55 series directly. The e-library is also hosted at River Publishers, as you might have noticed. And if you have any other questions, our emails are on there, me and Leslie both. So again, we hope you're inspired to use the standard fully to organize your lubrication program and to establish and reach the best possible goals for your asset-rich facility. We look forward to working with you.